Hi everyone, my name is Amal Sened. For the ones who don't know me, I work in Tamkeen. I used to work in exports Bahrain for a year. Hassan, you met me in exports. It's the same concept. Well, it's actually a same unit under Tamkeen. However, it's treated separately. But today I'm wearing Tamkeen hat. I've been working in Tamkeen. Whoever don't know me here, I've been working in Tamkeen for 5 years, and we're highly engaged with the market sector, with the private sector, and our job is really as a market engagement. So we engage with the entrepreneurs, we engage with um, the private sector entrepreneurs, mentors, advisors in different sectors in Bahrain. So the Startup Huddle is a new amazing concept which brings like-minded people together. It's a very supportive platform for the entrepreneurs. So it is created by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs and led by entrepreneurs. I'm here more like a facilitator and a connector, because to me, basically, this platform, it welcomes entrepreneurs together in a very open and very honest way. They talk about their business. So we have two wonderful speakers with us today, two presenters who will talk about their businesses. One of it is mostly like in the idea generation with Basoma Kadam and Kauthar Al-Galaf, which is mostly on the MVP and maybe past the MVP stage, where they already established the company, they have their CR and all. So just to give you a brief about each one, however, I will give them the space to talk about their business and details for 6 minutes, because the structure we'll have 6 minutes for each one to present their concept, and then we have 20 minutes to talk about it. So this is why we call it a startup huddle. It's a very huddly concept that brings people together, and they share their knowledge. They talk about their experience in the market. What did you guys? You give them the advices that they need, since they're both in the startup phase. Okay, so first of all, we're starting with Kauthar Al-Galaf, which they already developed their team, a beautiful team who developed a mobile application for social and business events as a venue booking concept. That even provides the vendors with a dashboard of the booking system, and they even presented virtual event services. Due to the pandemic, they were very adapting the market. So I want to hear from them what they have in mind, and I want you guys, all the participants with us today, because I thank you. We really thank you for dedicating this time, your valuable time with us today. So I want you to really open up and talk to the startups about your journey, about your experience, give them the advice they have. You can. So we will start with Sausan, and then Kauthar, sorry, and then we will start then for 20 minutes the Q&A. Then Masuma again, she will present her. She's at a very early stage as an idea generation, which is like a millennial lifestyle, which presents women. Correct me if I'm wrong, بعد Masuma, I want you to elaborate more about it, which presents women that can share a lot of knowledge when it comes to work, money, relationship. It's a community engagement platform. Which basically brings different generations together, the millennial generation and the generation Z, together. So, and it's mostly focusing on the GCC and the youth in the GCC countries. It's a platform to connect people together, basically, from different generations. So we will start with We Say E, which is with Kauthar Al-Galaf. Please, Kauthar, you have 6 minutes to present. Then we have 20 minutes with the team to talk about your concept. Okay, go ahead. I'll mute
right before Qatar speaks, we do have some house rules.
Yes.
When the presenter is speaking, please be sure to mute yourself to not interrupt. Keep all questions till the end to not interrupt her flow, because she's on timer for 6 minutes. And then when she's on presentation, feel free to ask questions, give her advice. You can unmute yourself then, turn on your camera, ask. You can use the raise hand feature if you want as well. but we want to make sure it's very, very huddly, like Emma said. So again, just be sure to mute yourself. Kautar? Kautar, you're muted.
Kautar, you're on mute.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kautar Galla. Guys, you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm the founder and CEO of WeSay. Basically, what we provide is a mobile application that will allow people to book their favorite venue, either for social or business events. And also, we provide a dashboard, which is a booking system for the vendors themselves. And also, given the pandemic, we offer virtual event services. This is how our application look like. Basically, people can select the type of events they want, and also we have an
Sorry, Kautar, you haven't shared your screen.
Oh, okay. Just a second. I thought it's already shared. There you go. Can you see it now?
Perfect.
All right. So yeah, this is how the screens looks like. They can have also an instant calendar where people can see when it's available to book the certain venue they chose, and also they can pay through the application. The problem is why we chose this business, that there is a miscommunication between the people who's looking for the venue and the vendors. They don't have a direct connect, like there's a huge space between them, and the customer has to go different ways and commute, and you know, the hustle and the traffic, they have to go visit different places to find the right place for them. Why this sector? Because it's really huge in Bahrain, and the millennials who use lifestyle application on the rise, and we're talking about 1.9 billion like a potential market in this field. The competition, as you can see, we have three competitors, and we are weighting them by different features, as you can see them in the table. And we have also competitors around the world, specifically in USA, Germany, and UK. So far, since last year, July 2019, we formed the team. We started working on the CR, forming the team, creating the processes. We pre-launched during a demo. We did demo to validate our demo, and also we work on social media, website, and we're acquiring vendors. And you know, because of the pandemic, it's been postponed, and also we are providing virtual services for virtual events. We went to the market and we have like 18 vendors interested, individuals we've been surveyed, and also we have corporates they are willing to join. The challenges we're facing given the pandemic is that the events industry been banned in Bahrain. So only small events, that's why we're providing virtual event services. The rules and regulation, we find it an obstacle given that we are only providing virtual events. So basically we need a virtual CR instead of a normal CR since the MVP is not launched yet. The patent of the idea is a struggle again because we're not having any investor. It's purely funded by me. The legal protection when it comes to contracts and consultation and the legal aspect, it's a burden as well, and it's an extra charge and cost for any startup. The next step is basically that we are seeking investors, either from Bahrain or outside Bahrain. We offer, as I mentioned, virtual event services to NGOs and societies, given they don't have a specialized IT department with them, so we can support them in that. And we further develop our website. Our vision to scale, as you can see, it's been postponed. It was different initially. And we're aiming to launch it the application by the end of this year. And we continue on developing it as well. The team is myself. I have a background of information system, risk management, project management, and also I'm a deputy II from UK in insurance. I had roughly 10 years experience, working experience. And my team is Ahmed Rabi'a. He's a first year engineer. He's handling the public relations and sales. Sarah bin Khalil is a second year student in UK in healthcare, but she's handling public relation and communication as well. And Maryam El Wujdani, she's an interior designer. She's handling the branding and the graphic design. This is it. If you have any question, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Sausan. So basically, sorry, Kauthar, thank you so much. So what we will have now, I want you guys to feel free to ask questions and give your feedback, give advices, and even Kauthar yourself, just get more, maybe you can ask questions because you have amazing experts, mentors who can really support you with this journey. So take advantage as much as you can because you have an effective team here with you who can support you in different stages. I'll keep the floor for you guys to share your experience with Kauthar.
Hi, can I start?
Yes, of course.
Hi, thank you for that, Kauthar. My name is Assam Hamad Tamkeen and also Jan Bahrain. So obviously this is a very interesting time or maybe challenging time to be launching a venture within this industry.
Yes.
And we can see how this can be a very slow process for you to expand or scale your services. But you mentioned that you provide virtual services or assistance for virtual events. So that could be something worth focusing on. You mentioned NGOs and non-profit. I wonder why you're limiting yourself to those two segments. Because I think many of us have attended forums and conferences in the past few weeks and months where there have been a lot of technical challenges and issues in actually running the events smoothly. So even small companies can really benefit from such a service whereby you can take over fully, maybe even subscribe to platforms on their behalf like Hopin, etc. Do all the administration A to Z, and they simply maybe moderate or take care of the content. So is this something that you're planning to do? Is this something that you're doing today?
Well, actually, you have a point. The thing is, when it comes to Bahraini market, I will say that most of the companies, they are mature when it comes to how to mitigate whatever we're going through in the pandemic. But the thing is, why we're approaching NGOs and societies, because we launched recently, we called it Extend, which is basically we want to reach out for communities and NGOs and societies. They have always like a message to send across, and given the pandemic, and they're not able to do different activities, so they can do it through virtual events. So yes, we don't mind working with companies, but the reason why we are targeting NGOs and societies, because as I said, they don't have a specialized IT or digital marketing department within the society or NGO, because it's an extra cost for them to have a team for that. So basically, we can provide them with the virtual event services. So yes, if we are approached by companies, definitely we can handle that. And also for like workshops when it comes to art or crafting, or there's different aspects can be covered through virtual events.
Assam, can I jump in? Do you have another question?
No, please go ahead.
All right, cool. So Hussein Haji here, Kauthar. First off, pleasure meeting you. I've never seen you before, but I'm worried actually about this specific slide, the challenges and the next steps. So I get that the pandemic is a challenge. It's been a challenge to so many different businesses, but then I see the other 3 points, and being a serial entrepreneur and multiple startup founder, I've actually managed to figure out that these aren't necessarily that big of challenges. So first off, rules and regulations of MIC, adding an activity is just as simple as adding an activity, more or less. It's not something that you really need to worry about. But then going to the patenting the idea with minimal cost, your idea, you mentioned it yourself, it's not necessarily a unique idea that makes you 100% different than any other businesses that exist today. So patenting that idea is not going to be, difficult because of the cost. It's going to be difficult because it's virtually impossible. Then more or less you have a platform that you want to patent. Somebody else can copy the entire platform, change one comma in it, and it's relatively new. So there's no point in technically patenting your idea.
Okay.
Legal protection and contracts, again, there are so many templates out there that you can actually find and very simply kind of like, amend a couple of words in it, just to get the first few customers. From what I've seen from your slides and your presentation, is that you only have people that are interested. You've only registered interest. You haven't actually moved forward with anything. So if you manage to figure out a template to start with the first 2 or 3, and then slowly add on it until you're able to technically get some sort of funding, because right now there's no way that somebody's just going to come in and give you funding because you haven't even tried the idea. And I get it, you're in a chicken and egg situation. You cannot try the idea because the pandemic isn't allowing you to try the idea. But then that online presence, that online event management thing might actually work well towards you. But then again, how scalable and how quick can it be? And is it that difficult to organize an online event for someone, to just do it themselves? So I think there's so many things that you need to worry about here that are not the challenges that are listed in front of me right now. So things like scalability. Is this idea going to scale to an extent where I can actually offer it in multiple countries? Is this idea going to be profitable at any point in time? Is it that difficult for anybody to create an event online that they actually need someone to do it for them, online specifically? Offline, I get it. I understand there's a lot of work to be done. And NGOs, you did mention NGOs, you just said that they don't have the budget to hire their own teams. What makes you think that NGOs would have a budget to pay you? Right? So all of this all together, stuff that you need to worry about with this business to figure out your business model going forward. Other than that, you're very well versed, and I think you can actually do some, figure something out to make this work at some point.
Thank you so much, Hussein. Well, when it comes to the rules and regulation, I mean by that, since we didn't launch the application, which is we have a payment gateway within the app, we are, it's mandatory that we have a normal CR within office space, and it's like an extra cost, and it's been a while, and we don't know when the pandemic would be over. So that's why one of the reasons with the recommendation of the Supreme Council for women, that why don't you provide the virtual event services, which is something doable. As you mentioned, it's not something like reinventing the wheels. So something we can offer to create like some sort of income till the pandemic is over. But the thing is, when I tried to convert the normal CR to a virtual one, they were like strictly sharing that this type of activity cannot be on a virtual CR, while we are purely working virtually, and we're using the website for registration and arranging through the emails and stuff. So that is a burden for us at this stage, given the pandemic. And when it comes to patent the idea, yes, I agree. But mostly when you like pitch anywhere or have a discussion with anyone in the tech industry, everyone like keep on saying you have to patent your idea because it's easy to be duplicate. For me to get or grab the attention of investors, we have to make sure that the idea is secured, and we create kind of stickiness of customer that they will have the best experience and service. And it's all about the way you implement the whole idea, I know, but still it's part of, the luxury, I would say, or something like to have like, when you have a license for something to add value to it. And when it comes to the legal, yes, I will definitely emphasize that legal aspect is really important. And I believe that when it comes to startups in Bahrain, it's scattered here and there. And when it comes to investors, it's not legislated, and sometimes it happens that for the entrepreneurs, we're excited, we want to do the idea, so the minute we find a good investor who will put the money, we just accept their terms, and it ends up like in chaos, and after years it becomes crazy, like how it goes. So if we have the legal support from the beginning, I think it's much better, and yes, it's an extra cost.
The patenting thing, I still, have to put this on point. It is a luxury to patent something if it's something
Yeah.
that is 100% unique, and it's something like hardware that's been developed in a unique way to cater to a certain problem. But then software and a dashboard is usually not, actually, it's not going to be a luxury. It's going to be looked at as if, why did you waste your money on this? So investors might actually, it might go against what you're trying to do. It might make the investor feel like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Don't spend money on that, right? So, nevertheless, inshallah, I wish you the best of future going forward. Yeah, good luck.
Thank you, Hussein. Thank you.
Hi, Kathar. Just wanted to jump in, Yasser from Malab here.
Yeah.
I think Hussein summed it up perfectly. Like once I saw your challenges page, to be honest, the pandemic is probably the only thing I'd be worried about right now. When it comes to, I'll maybe address patenting and legal protection first. I honestly think that patenting your idea at this point is going to be a waste of money, to be honest, because you're not going to achieve anything. You're not going to protect your concept. You're not going to protect your idea. Anyone can just do it in a different implementation. Even if someone does that, you shouldn't worry about these people who copy. We've had at least 50 people try to copy our idea, and none of them managed to do anything useful with it. We do have competitors who are unique in their own way, and those are usually the people that you should be worried about. So I completely maybe drop thinking or even worrying about patenting at this point. Regarding legal protection and contracts, to be honest, again, like Hussein said, you have a lot of templates that are already online. And once we started, I have zero legal background, but I basically wrote all the contracts that we signed with our pitch owners and suppliers and even employees, to be honest. So all you need to do is search online a bit and maybe talk to a couple of startups, including me as well. You can talk to me, and I can share with you any templates that you are using for suppliers, for employment, anything that is standard and used. It's not going to cost you anything, and you can just tweak it a bit for it to be way more representative to what you want. Once you maybe said you're raising investment, that's another matter, is because any investor you bring in will have to have some sort of articles of association and some sort of shareholders agreement, basically. That's something that you will need to worry about then, but not now. Like Hassan said, you haven't even launched the product yet. So right now, maybe all your focus, all your budgets, all your efforts should be towards actually launching and experimenting with the concept, either as an MVP with virtual. Again, virtual will have a lot of challenges that the guys were mentioning, or maybe even gearing it towards, for example, once things are better. That's again a risk that you will take, but maybe just optimizing that product for just whenever events are going to come back.
All right, thank you so much for your comments. I didn't get your good name. I can't see.
Yasser from Malab. We met, I think, before.
Oh, Yasser, عارفك. Okay, all right. Thank you, Yasser. Thank you so much for your comment.
So I would like to, if you don't mind me, Saleh as well, Saleh from Plastics Labs, to talk about the experience because we had a small meeting before, myself and Kauthar and the team. So when it comes to participating in an incubator or an accelerator, would you like to give her some of your advices on how does it work? Will it be? I believe because you're already paying a rent now for a physical place, and you're not operating yet. So Saleh, would you like to jump in and add some of your advices when it comes to startups and incubators or accelerators?
Sorry, did you just say that she's already paying for rent?
Yes,
I did. Sorry.
Oh.
And you know Saleh as well. I was part of Cycle 5. I don't know if you remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
yeah, she was part of the Cycle 5 bootcamp.
Beautiful.
I mean, the first thing I'd do is I'd never pay rent on a business that hasn't launched. You want to be as lean as possible, and you want to validate the concept before you ever really invest financially. That's kind of why we always encourage everybody to try and figure out you know, maybe you feel you need to build up an app that has an automated backend that links to vendors whenever somebody submits a request and wants to create an event. The other part that I thought was complicated about your business is that event management is going to consist of multiple vendors. You've got the venue, you've got the caterers, you've got the event planners and things like that. So that part, I think, you know, originally you'll have to do it in a lean method, which will be pretty intense manually and require a lot of human resources to do. I think also you're going to find like the issue you're going to have to address is scalability. You know, with your business, it's not one of those. It's not really like a purely tech software business where it's super easy for you to scale into other countries. You're going to have to do a lot of business development in each country that you try to scale into, and you're going to need people on the ground. Other than that, I know that you're aware about, you know, accelerators and how to apply and get in because you were in our boot camp. But I'd definitely say that if you're not operating right now, there's no real reason. Like I wouldn't have moved ahead and created the CR and you know, rented an office and started piling these overhead costs until I've sort of validated the demand and that the product itself, the concept's gonna work. You know, that you have a proof of concept. Other than that, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Saleh. The thing is with the CR, the reason why I have to have a CR, and as I mentioned before, because in the application we have a payment gateway, when it comes to Credimax, we have to have an actual office or address. This is one. Two, for me to approach vendors, the first thing they're gonna ask for is, are you registered? You have a CR. So for me to start launching the app, I cannot launch it without having vendors. So what's the point having an application or MVP where customers will download it and they cannot book anywhere, you know? So the reason we had the CR, and you know, the pandemic wasn't like something anyone was expecting to happen. So we're ready to launch it on June, but the thing is, as you know, the pandemic. So the reason is with the rules and regulation that, and I completely understand, it's not flexible because nobody was expecting the pandemic. So the activity, what we're doing is not listed as a virtual CR. So we have to have a normal CR, which is, it made us facing a challenge, which is, I believe most of startups, they were facing it. But I completely understand, Saleh, your point of view. And when it comes to scalability, yes, I completely agree. We have to do enough research and, you know, approach different investors to expand to different countries.
Manaf, you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you again. Can you expand a little bit more on what do you mean by acquiring vendors? Are you referring to onboarding customers, or do you actually have vendors to acquire?
Yeah, so basically we are a booking service. Through the application, people can book their favorite social or business event venue. يعني عندك meeting, you have meeting or conference, you can actually use the application to book for it. So basically, the first step is to get the vendors, which is the venue owners, hotels or public halls or, you know, private halls, to get them on the application. Then we can launch the app. So customers, once they enter, they can find a place that they like.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, beautiful. Janan, are we done with 20 minutes? Is it completed or not yet?
I think we have time for maybe one more question.
One more question.
If not, we can move on to Mahsouma.
Not even question, guys. I want you even to share your experience, to talk about your experience when it comes to, so as Yasser mentioned with Mala'ib, as Hussein mentioned, how does it work? So we want you as well to feel free to add any advice to Kauthar. As we mentioned, it's a Huddle concept, so we want everyone to jump in and add their knowledge and share knowledge with everyone. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to Mahsouma then. So Kawthar, how is it?
Sorry, one last thing. Manaf also raised his hand again.
Okay, please.
Can you tell me, Kawthar, how do you see this? How do you scale? How are you planning to scale this business up?
First, we have to cover Bahrain market. There's so many places to do events in Bahrain, and we were surprised when we start meeting the vendors. We discovered that there are so many places that nobody knows about. So we need to cover all of the aspects when it comes to booking the venue, and we have like also more features. But the first thing with MVP, once it's successful that we cover so many places, we can move to the next features. How to expand? That depends on doing a research, market research for each country that we are willing to penetrate. And it came to my attention that Kuwait is very competitive, and Saudi, it's a really huge market, but still it's doable. Also, there is like two or three apps, two apps that do similar thing to what we're doing. But still, the first step is to have an investor, then finding the right accelerator, I would say. So I'm willing to just to sign in or register with Flat 6 Labs in the future, maybe once we get enough traction. Or there's so many other accelerators like in Bahrain or also outside Bahrain. So the way is through accelerators.
I would like to add as well, since we have Manaf with us and it comes from a training and education sector. Manaf, would you provide some of your advices on the virtual sessions, how effective it is? Maybe now we need to shift to virtual, you know, since the pandemic, we don't know, we don't have any duration or expectation when it will stop until the vaccination is out. So I believe in this stage, maybe you might need to adapt the market and kind of like change the concept from physical and attending events to virtual events, you know, like us in Temkeen, we've been looking for virtual platforms for conferences, for events, given that we focus mostly on this part. And we are here today on Zoom, which is an amazing concept, basically, but you can customize it for the Bahraini market. So are you thinking about that in Manaf as well? If you can add your feedback on the virtual, since you guys shifted everything on virtual, can you please add some of your feedback on that?
Sure. Thank you for pointing this question. From a Berlitz point of view, one of the businesses that I run, we've been in that business as far as the online sector, online training since 2003. It really didn't start pushing forward, and really didn't really just pick up only in the recent 5 years. But it really went off the charts when the pandemic really kicked in, and that's where people were forced to go in. So when we had that platform back in 2003, we really had to adapt a lot by even sometimes using Zoom and other platforms, because our platforms that we created back in 2003 didn't keep up with it. So when I look at this, and let's assume I wanted to use this for training, I haven't seen the platform that Kawthar is referring to, or the dashboard and the ins and outs of it. But if I'm going to bring in the Berlitz experience, we went ahead by offering VR rooms, and you have full virtual avatars and a full campus moving up there. For us to look at something like this and to have training mesh into online training, you have the fun element, and you have the element of keeping people stuck to their seats for at least 2 hours without getting bored. So how are you going to manage to do something like that that's going to make people actually come back to you for more? And I guess the traction here is not just by offering them a way to communicate, because now you have a lot of platforms that actually offer communication facilities. And if we look at it, more or less, they're all almost looking alike within their shape and feel. But what differentiates? And if we want to look at it from the training perspective, that's why we went in and we invested in a virtual world where our trainees today come in an avatar, and they can put a mask and or a goggle, and they can actually give directions and take directions in French, for example, today. And they really apply it in a virtual reality setting. Now we're going a little bit more into the extreme when it comes to Berlitz because we're always trying to be ahead of our curve and trying to be innovative. But if I'm starting up, at the end of the day, when it comes to training, you need to have something which is more easy for the end user to use. And this is where the challenge is. The end user here, the trainee, needs to get onboarded with your platform in a very easy system, in a very, easy way for them to really, accept it and use it. Also, you need to look at how easy it is for them to use it on their mobiles versus their computers. That's another thing that we've seen as a challenge as we went full-fledged into the online sector. Again, I haven't seen your platform, so I wouldn't be the best person that can judge this, but it should have these basic things that people expect today.
That's enough. The thing is, when I said offering virtual event services, we don't provide the platform. We can utilize Zoom, but we prepare everything. As I mentioned earlier, we just target NGOs and societies, not because only they don't have IT team. They cannot afford having a full team who can help them out in creating, registration, invitation, branding the event, having a moderator for the event as well. So we provide services. We don't provide the platform. We can utilize any platform upon their request, like whatever they feel comfortable with. The thing is, we provide the services around any virtual event. And I understand completely with the VR, and it's something that I want to add to the app in the future, is basically to have augmented reality or VR when it comes to exploring the venue the customer will book instead of them going physically, which is something I want to add as a feature as well in the future. But I'm definitely sure that this needs time, and it needs as well capital for it, because it costs a lot to have all the venues with us to be covered with that technology.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kauthar, because I think we're out of time. We're going to Masuma now. Thank you so much, and thanks for everyone who shared their experience. Very fruitful advices. We really appreciate your advices and time. So we'll have again Masuma, which is in the idea generation concept, which is a platform to support millennials generation and Generation Z. So Masuma, please jump in, talk about your concept, your idea, and let's have it for 6 minutes so we'll have more time for Q&A.
Sure, I can't screen share. I think it says you can't share while the other participant's sharing. So.
Oh, okay, so Kauthar needs to...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm happy that I see a lot of really familiar faces. It's nerve-wracking, but also really exciting because everyone has seen me in such a different lens. For those who don't know me, I am Masuma, and I currently am a communications professional. I work in Riyadh, actually, but since the pandemic, I've been working from Bahrain, and hopefully, doubling on both areas. So I'm going to try and take you guys off very quickly into what I envision or what I had in mind. I have always been a fan of magazines. I have been in love with magazines ever since I've been a child. And I've never felt that a magazine, a women's magazine, online or digital, represented me. So for me, the idea of having a magazine, a women's magazine, has been sitting in my head since I graduated university, really. But I think now more than ever, do women feel like they're so bold and brazen that they want to have a platform that represents them and also speaks for them. So the platform that I had in mind is an online magazine. It's GCC women, not Khalidi women in specific, but women living in the GCC. And it explores all these various facets of life that maybe they may not come off to the other gender, but they still are relevant and prominent. Things like beauty, naturally. Food and dining, well-being, but especially working money. If you're a young female career professional, you know just how much it matters that you talk about money. Love and dating, the age is right for marriage and all of that. So I envision a platform that is both a website and a digital platform, obviously like an Instagram account, where you get to talk about these issues. It's submissions driven, but it's also topic driven. Why now? In a nutshell, the women's market is huge. I mean, just one article that I read from the Harvard Business Review mentioned that women control about 20 trillion in annual consumer spending. They spend that much, and that was in 2009. I can't imagine how much it is now. I work in Riyadh, I always keep saying this, and I've seen like young women come into the labor market and come at it full force. They have disposable income, they're ready to spend, and they want a voice that kind of pushes them in that direction of, oh, this represents me. I actually want to, indulge in this. I want to try, I want to interact with this. The women's space is also a place for empowerment. Everybody really loves to be empowered. It's always about, sisterhood, reclaiming the narrative. And this type of activism that says women are bold, but women are vulnerable kind of sells. Really it does. It creates so many opportunities for content marketing. I used to love reading magazines. I used to go to Al Jazeera and just try and find magazines when it wasn't allowed. And I found the magazines were always expensive and inaccessible. Now, online magazines are all the rage. Magazines have gone digital. You have Vogue, Cosmopolitan, Sayyidati, which is something that I used to actually read. But they always touched on things like fashion and beauty, never work and money, marriage, dating. I felt like that age segment was never really represented. And I think we're talking about women who are starting university up until they're in their, just hitting 40. That segment is so massive and so underrepresented in mainstream media. Nonetheless, there are platforms everywhere, right? I mean, it's 2020. You have women who start their own magazines online, who start their own platforms, and some of them actually focus on a specific topic, whether it's women's health, beauty, fashion. I mean, the internet isn't short of platforms. However, I think we lack one voice that kind of tries to seem or like harmonize these experiences. The experience of somebody who works in Riyadh and has to commute, whether locally or internationally. The experience of a working mother who just entered the job market after giving birth. These kind of experiences, and also spaces and places, because women don't just work. They eat, they drink, they go out, and they love to eat. I'm personally a fan. So I think there's so many different facets that if we just shed more light on, whether in the Bahraini context and then later in a regional context, would be really relevant. Where I am right now, I mean, as Emma said, I'm still in the idea stage, but this is something that I'm highly passionate about. And now that I have all this time, I've been working from home for 6 months. I have taken to slowly but surely working on it. I have a domain, I have a page started. I do need to get my business model up and running, I think, or / see a landscape where this is going to monetize and generate revenue for me down the line. I think a content pipeline is important. I've worked in content business and industry. I work in comms now, so I know how important it is to have fresh, new content that's sustainable and recurring. Obviously, authors, so this cannot be a one-woman show. I don't envision it as a one-woman show. I see it as multiple people who chip in, whether on their own terms or they come in as editors or writers. Templates are very important. I'm not a designer as much as I'd love to be. I feel like if anybody understood the logo, I really appreciate it. But it was just, something I created off of Canva. I appreciate good design, and I think good design complements good content. In terms of my goals, my challenges, my opportunities, I want to have subscribers. I want to have 5,000 subscribers within the first 6 months. I don't know if that's ambitious or not ambitious. I'm thinking about it in terms of the pace where I am right now. Instagram followers. I mean, everything is shareable and everything is digital. Everything has to be driven by that content. And I want to scale to Saudi. I work in Saudi, but I would love to have a separate Saudi platform because that's where I think I'll be able to properly monetize. The challenge for me is sustainability. I mean, I don't have any overhead costs other than obviously website right now. I work from my own house. I'm a writer. I would write all the content. I can write content pretty quickly, but it doesn't have to be me. Ideally, this is written by a team, by a community. It just needs to be curated here and there. Design resources. I mean, I would love to have a great design, like 10 design templates that I could reuse all the time and feel like they're powerful to use. Opportunities, I think brand partnerships are not really that difficult to get by. You can partner with a restaurant, you can partner with a beauty brand, you can partner with, and you can create those native advertising opportunities. You can create affiliate marketing if there's an e-commerce section. I think, the time is right for women's voices to emerge, and they already have, but especially in the region. So I hope that was less than 6 minutes. In terms of next steps, obviously experimentation is key because this is mostly digital. I'm going to have to see what kind of content sells and what kind of content doesn't sell, but still is important, whether it's generic, clickbait, controversial. I don't see this as like extended long-form writing. This is all 6 restaurants to try this weekend or 6 makeup tutorials to follow, things like that, but also with a more investigative edge, like salary stories, for example. Women anonymously revealing their salaries, but also talking about how they spend and invest their money. Obviously, the workflow is really important, but more than that, it's the outreach to the community and saying that this is a platform that represents you, and how you want to take it forward is how you present your ideas and your topics. What I want to know if this is viable, especially in a place like Saudi, where I see myself being long term. Would companies invest in a platform that has grown and represents women? I'm not sure anymore. There's many platforms today that seem to want to do that, and I'm not really the only player here. And when I want to know when this actually I can expect that this is going to make money, when I can actually have a writer full time maybe, and have a couple of maybe a designer, a freelance designer, and when I think I've hit that sweet spot where people actually like to read it and they follow it, and it's a lovable brand. It's a magazine that you open or you're thirsty for when you're opening up Instagram on a Sunday morning or on a weekend as you go to bed. Hope that was 6 minutes. Thanks.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much, Masuma. So basically, it's a platform to connect like-minded people of women together that shares interest. You mean, so when it comes to food, when it comes to, so it's basically, we can treat it as a virtual magazine or a blog.
Yes.
So what happens with those platforms, they rely on advertising. They advertise brands, they advertise different concepts. So in your case, is this is this a plan that you want to, it's mostly like an advertising platform, because you need to generate money, obviously, and you need a number of businesses that basically content writers, you will need designers, you will need outsource people to take care of your business. So just an example of Huddle Beauty. Huddle Beauty, which is I'm sure all the girls know her here. I don't know about you guys, but Huda Beauty, basically, she started as a platform of makeup and beauty. She brings all makeup tutorials and stuff like that. But then she created her own brand. So she was actually advertising spontaneously on a daily basis different brands. Oh, I use this for my skin, I use this for my mascara, I use this. So it was aggressively. However, I believe she has around, her revenue reached around 1 million, if I'm not mistaken. All of her employees are outsourced. So she deals with the outsource strategy. She has maybe 3 or 4 only, but most of her employees are outsourced. And in your case, this is a great concept to bring, she brought a lot of people. She has more than 1 million followers. So in your case, is this something what you want to create? Because we want everyone to understand the concept clearly, and even the audience. Who's your customers? Who do you want them to? Who are you planning? Who do you think that they will follow you? Not every woman will follow you. Maybe is it going to be English, Arabic? If you talk about it, maybe for Saudi, so it's going to be an Arabic platform. So I don't know if anyone wants to jump in and add their advice or feedback on that, or Mahsouma, if you have any other comment that you want to share. Thank you.
Manaf has raised his hand, and he's also going to leave in a bit, so I think we should let him talk first.
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Masuma. Always interesting concepts from you. I've dealt with you in the past, and I love how you're looking at it. If you're going to look at the magazine, I think it's controversy will always get you followers and readership. But I'm just thinking off the bat here. Did you ever try writing something like a blog or a video blog just to test the waters with the Saudi market, and especially with the Saudi market lately, with them getting into the driver's seat, exploring, expanding? You've had people who are followers, with, against, and a mix of all of things all going on at the same time. So have you tried blogging over there, or just to test the waters?
Well, I mean, since I'm here and since it's there, I see the Saudi version, which is probably going to be an Arabic one in the future. What I've tested in Bahrain, I think I used to write a lot of articles with Startup Magazine, and I know how to write click or content basically, and I know how content works on a basic level and how to market it on a basic level. Now, I agree with you, it has to be controversial. What I want to do is establish a base in Bahrain so that when I end up going to Saudi and staying there, I know that this type of design works, or this type of approach works when it comes to writing. This one, not so much. I mean, it's challenging because you're talking about English and Arabic, which are two different worlds, right? But Arabic is the bigger audience, no matter what. In Bahrain, I think in Saudi, you can probably try and get an English audience too, because all the consultants that are living in Saudi or outside of Saudi are going to have to eventually stay there. And I've met a lot of women like that, the women in the compounds, the ones who go on the hiking trips. There's also a lot of really, really native, fluent speaking, English speaking Saudi women. It's not as big of a market as the Saudi women, the maybe typical ones. So I would like Bahrain to be the starting ground. And then when I go to Saudi, I want to see, well, English can only get maybe like 2,000 followers or 3,000. But in Arabic, a couple of controversial pieces would actually get me there. But yes, the goal ultimately is to have both languages. Does that answer your question?
No. What I was looking at is this. You're comparing Bahrain to Saudi. Two different environments. Although they're opening up, but Bahrain is more open to different things. But then again, if you're going to be talking about things like dating and these kind of topics, along the same things of similar to that, do you think you're going to have that? You wouldn't have any barriers there in Saudi Arabia looking at it, especially if it's going to go on a public forum like a magazine or anything like that?
No, but I mean, Saudi has changed dynamically, has changed rapidly. Twitter space alone in Saudi. I mean, there's a women's dance studio in Saudi that is very visible on Instagram. I think it's a matter of being very cautious, but also finding those maybe left-leaning women who are happy to not just share their stories, but also read about other stories. I think what you're talking about is a very fine line. I've seen a lot of content marketing platforms that are just Saudi and very Saudi focused / kind of humor and family related. I don't want it to be that. I think family is important. Humor, obviously, content is important, but the everyday lived experience of a woman, whether that's the makeup she wears or the food she tries after a long day at work, is important.
Great. Thank you.
Hussein, you raise your hand.
Masuma, you mentioned you have an Instagram account. I'm just curious to see what type of content you already put out.
I just gave it a starter. So the only thing that I have right now is just the kickoff of the topics. Today I want to start more on what defines the modern woman, who speaks for the modern woman, and then from there start getting into actual small content writing. Because for me to be able to actually go full steam, I need to have the website ready, so that if people want to actually read full length, they can go on the website. I have the domain, but I don't have the website set up.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in real quick, Masuma. I just wanted, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but I'm trying to figure out how scalable this whole thing can become as a business. maybe as something that you're going to do as a blog going forward, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But then not many people can rely on just, well, especially blogs or written blogs can rely on advertising going forward for a very long time. As you saw, magazines have died out. Most of the content is online. Still, even with the magazines having their content online, having online ads and all that sort of stuff there, they're still struggling today, and they're always at the, you know, cutthroat at borderline potential of bankruptcy. I'm trying to figure this out. What I mean, this is basically trying to groom, well, creating some sort of a, you know, fan base for a specific type of content. I get it that it's relative to women, and that is completely fine. But then I'm trying to, again, still trying to take a look at it. How is this going to become a business going forward? And I can't figure, you know, seem to put a finger on it. What are you planning in terms of, you know, what could potentially become a business out of this? If it's just advertisement, I can tell you from now that it's not going to be feasible. What else do you think could be a potential revenue generation for this, if you plan to take it as a business and not something that you do on the side?
I think when it comes to things like work, maybe after having these different blog experiences, maybe a corporate partner would want to come in and say, here's a financial guide to literacy. And now that you have a subscriber base, let's do a partnership together where we end up either having a series of events that are like, you know, financial literacy workshops and complemented by a guide. That would be some kind of revenue in of itself. Or they could have a series of feature articles, for example, where they sponsor like 3 or 4 articles. I subscribe to Quartz, I subscribe to a ton of magazines, New York Times, and I know that they struggle. Magazines no doubt struggle, but content to me is something that's more feasible than something that is either technologically driven or I feel hardware driven. It's just something that it comes and goes. Yes, it's clickbaity and people, you know, there's ebbs and flows, but people will always want to find out what the next big thing is. They always want to know what the buzz is. So I agree with you. It probably would continue as a blog. It would not be this massive growing, you know, platform. But with time, once it reaches its peak, it'll at least have maybe 4 or 5 clients at its peak. Maybe a couple of beauty brands. Maybe Sephora is going to want to come in and say, okay, here's you know, we'd love to have 3 blog posts about this type of promoting our new collection of eyeliners. And then you bring in an influencer. It's kind of like the back end of that is an agency. It's like an agency with a product, really. And you do marketing solutions for them. You can do B2B solutions to these brands and help them understand that space. Imagine having maybe 10,000 women knowing based on the data of the website or the Instagram, what they like, what they don't like, what they want, and then selling that to brands.
But then I get it. There's a market for everything. But then again, I can literally go onto Instagram right now, acquire 10,000 women with a couple of keywords and market to them directly. You see, again, I'm not trying to break this whole thing. I'm trying to gauge you towards how am I gonna take this from what the idea that I have in my head right now and actually turn it into something that can become lucrative and actually add value at the same time. An agency, there's a ton of agencies available. What's going to make you different? It's going to be catering directly to women. Okay, and then creating content for blogs online. A lot of business, there's like probably hundreds of millions of blogs available online. They can create content and throw in right now. And people, and you know, you'll have 1,000 readers here and there, 1,000 readers here and there, and eventually capture traffic towards you. But again, that is not a sustainable and a model that can actually grow to become a potential, you know, the behemoth of a business. Maybe, yet, like you said, you're planning not to make it into a behemoth. You're planning to make it, you know, something that can actually add value and just continue to add value at a certain level, a certain scale. But then at some point, it's just advice. Don't take it the wrong way. What I'm trying to say is, at some point, it's going to be too much work with very little return for you, and you could have invested a lot of that time into something that might have actually, you know, given you something else, something in return. So this idea is, it's very noble. I love it. It makes sense. I like the fact that you're passionate about it. That's fantastic. But then figuring out how to make it sustainable, figuring out how to make it into an actual business that can actually grow, and not a business that will compete in a very cutthroat environment. Even if you are going to compete in a cutthroat environment, what's going to make you extremely unique, something that's going to give you a competitive edge, take you from step 0 to 1. It's way too early for anybody to give you solid advice. on exactly what you're doing, because I think that you still need to think about what you're doing, right? So that's just my piece of the pie. Sorry. Good luck.
Thank you, Hussein. Thank you so much. Yes, I believe what you're saying is right, because Masuma, you are in the idea generation, which is in the early stages of building the concept itself. So you need to try it, you need to see if it's working or not. So, oops, your time is out. So you need to understand exactly, I believe, for anything to be scalable or successful is you really need to understand your audience. Because it's a lot of, you're tapping into a lot of pillars here, which is well-being, fashion, food. So you can see sometimes on Instagram or on social media, there are specific accounts for specific things. So I think you need to understand your audience. I know the good thing about it, since you're focusing on Saudi, it's a massive market, and as you said, the culture is changing, the woman there's the mindset is changing, so there's a huge opportunity for you to scale up. However, I believe you need to kind of like shrink it to a specific focus. Let's say when it comes to let's say fashion or food, try to minimize it as much as you can for people to understand what they follow, but it's a beautiful concept, and since you have the passion and you have the love for it, definitely it can do wonders. However, you need to kind of like minimize it as much as till you, once it builds up and people understands it very well, then you can extend and add more pillars to it. This is my point of view. Anyone else wants to jump in and provide some advices or feedback to Masuma?
Hi, Masuma. I have a quick point. I wanted to ask you, before looking at Bahrain or Saudi, have you looked at the UK or US or Europe for similar, not just concepts, or similar business models that were implemented in a similar way that gave you the inspiration that this can turn into something I can then scale and build up on top of? Like I can think of one example, which is a sports online magazine. It's called The Athletic, and what they did is basically they poached a lot of very famous journalists, and they all write for them now. So have you?
Yeah, the reason why I actually got into this is because in the absence of magazines that talked about the things I was interested in the Middle East, I ended up turning to magazines in the US and the UK. So one big one that I follow is Refinery 29, Bustle. Very, even the things like Cosmopolitan, they have better content in the US than we have here. So I've seen their experiences. I've read extensively about them because to me, it is so interesting how you can be both an agency, a brand, and a platform. So what I found is that they have all these different integrated marketing solutions. If you open the first page of any, or before at least, you used to go on a magazine, you used to see there was somebody in charge of advertising, there was somebody in charge of B2B solutions, there was somebody in charge of B2C solutions. Thankfully, all the magazines that I subscribe to, the women's magazines, don't have membership models. So, I talked about Quartz and Vox and these places. I realistically don't expect anybody to pay for content like this, really, unless it becomes something so intense, or it comes up with its own product or its own life. What I see is brands coming in saying, this is a segment that we try and understand, especially, I don't represent Gen Z. I'm sure somebody wants to represent Gen Z. And it can take on many forms of itself, but there's a shop. So there's the content itself, there's the shop of the platform. So, brands come in and they're like, okay, we want you to promote these different types of eyeliners and products. And then if they do shop on their website, after reading an article that says this is going to make your face look so, pore-free, they get an affiliate kind of commission out of it. So I understand that these kind of things work in a big, massive economy. It doesn't work in a place like maybe Bahrain, where you wouldn't generate this much. But I do religiously follow many magazines, and there are some magazines that I've seen fall, and there are magazines that I've seen rise. And I'm always amazed that, to me, I think controversy is the one thing. Things like salary stories, have always been very vocal, and I've seen, the comment section of like a website, whether in Bahrain as well, you can see it. But the comment section alone is enough to drive that viewership that you would want to attract brands with later on.
Maybe the only point I have here is that some of the examples you mentioned are very well-known magazines that were already like physical magazines that people were buying and reading. So for them, they had all the content readers, they had all the partnerships, they had all the brand associations, they had everything set. Because now we're moving into a digital world, they had to kind of refocus all that, let's say, resources that they had into something more digital. But for you to do it from scratch, like Hussein said, might take a lot of time and might be a lot of effort that might not get you anywhere, basically. So maybe start looking into businesses that started digitally from day one and from scratch. And how did they manage to develop all of that? And what did they do in order to get it forward, basically?
Yeah.
So I actually really like your concept, and I like that you have a lot of passion for it, which I think would help you. There are like a lot of digital magazines or platforms that focus on makeup, fashion, but one of the things that you want to talk about are the things that are more controversial that people aren't really talking about. And I think that would bring readers. Like we told about women's salaries, that's not even something you would think about, let alone look for. So when you have content like that on a platform, you're going to be driving readers, you're going to be getting views. And I think then later on, you can supplement it with the fashion stuff. So your core focus should be the things that people aren't talking about. And then your fluff pieces are the eyeliners, the fashion advice, the things that can make money out of that. I think that would work. I really recommend you start with this, start publishing content, see how it goes, because I think this could be something good.
Myself, I would like to add just a suggestion. I believe that if you collaborate with different communities, let's say, because it serves mainly women, and women need to be like send across their message or voice it up. So I believe if you made your collaborators or the people you collaborate create the content, and in the future they get paid just like YouTube. They get paid per the views or the likes. So that way it's a win-win situation for you and for them. Like it has to be like communities, anything related to women. And also you have to emphasize on the age group. Like for certain communities, it has to go, let's say 30s plus or 20s plus, because every age group has their own interest, and I believe it's doable, but you need a lot of content creating. So instead of you creating it and hiring people to do it, you can collaborate. And I believe there is a very bright guy, he's in Flat 6 Labs. I don't remember his name, but he have like nutritionists or something. He has like a group of people talking about different aspects when it comes to sports, dieting, healthy lifestyle. So it could be a part of the well-being. You can collaborate with him. It's a good exposure for him as well. And there is so many fashion designers in Bahrain. You can get them in creating content, and people will be interested to come and see what Bahrainis bright people has.
Thank you, everyone. I also just
Yes,
want to
this is a beautiful idea. Yeah, thank you,
think,
Kauthar.
I think as well, it is difficult to explain the value of a platform to a largely male audience here. I think, you guys have your worlds, women have their worlds. So maybe I think it's important to see that from the lens of a woman is different. And I'm trying not to be gendered here because gender can be challenging, but it's different perspectives that you may not necessarily feel are popular within the community, but resonate deeply. But the business definitely is a very viable kind of aspect. And I think, as Kauthar mentioned, collaborations are very important. So something that's reshareable is something that everyone feels like they know it's another lovable brand that they collaborate with.
I agree.
Okay,
About the thing about
I agree. Yeah. All right.
I'll just jump in real quick. Can you guys hear me properly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, I think who Kauthar was referring to is Hamid Al Saad from the Nourishers. You can find his Instagram, I think, pretty easily. If you want to get in contact with him, I can put you in contact with him. But I think what you need to do is more than just, first of all, you know that your target audience is probably going to be like Khadiji women from Generation Z, millennials, and maybe Generation X. And then just kind of study that demographic and see what is the highlighted interests of each of those generations, because it'd be good to appeal across the spectrum. And then just start blogging. Like I'd say start it off as just a blog, because that's where you'll learn a lot. You'll kind of learn like what works, what doesn't, what kind of style because I think first you need to kind of be a success as a blogger before you can go into, building a large content-based online magazine and bringing in other writers, because then you need to, that's why at that point you need to be a skilled editor that you can recognize which writers would be relevant to your audience. And then off that part, like pretty much once you've built an audience, the way I look at things is that if you can build an audience in anything, then you can figure out a way to monetize them. It's more about figuring out like where's the biggest demand within that audience. So for example, we had a company called Set. They're actually supposed to be launching their application this month at some point. And what she started off doing is she wanted to make, this was more specific to just Gen Z and millennial Khadiji girls. And she wanted to make a lifestyle blog, which she did for a year or two. And she started to get a following on it. And then her idea was like, I built this community and now I want to kind of shift it into almost not a complete different thing, but it was no longer about content, right? It was about her trying to shift it into what fashion items women find relevant, and to kind of become an aggregator of that and to be the sort of Tinder of fashion, where they'll be able to figure out what's the most popular of the week by swiping left and right, and it kind of has that gamification to it as well, makes it more engaging. And she hasn't launched it yet. We'll see how it goes, but it's kind of, that's the typical model where you wouldn't necessarily switch from that into an app, but it's more that you build up that community, and then there'll be loads of different kind of revenue streams. It's just trying to figure out which one makes the most sense and the most effective.
Thanks, Salah.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Salah. Amazing feedback. And I love how, because the main concept of Startup Huddle is really to connect people together, and I love that Kauthar added some names to connect people, Salah as well. So I really appreciate this, which is the core of Startup Huddle. I think, Jinan, how are we with the time?
Time is up.
خلاص. Perfect. So I really want to thank you all. I really appreciate your time. I understand it's a lot of valuable time for all of you here with us today, and I really appreciate it. It's the first time we go virtual. I was a little bit concerned, honestly, because it was more physical, talking to each other in a very close place. However, I can see a beautiful interaction between all of you guys. So I really appreciate your time. Participating with us. And just a reminder, because we are so basically what we do, I want to thank the speakers. Sorry, I didn't thank Kauthar and Masuma. Thank you so much. Thank you for presenting your ideas. So just to end the session, normally we keep the door open for anyone wants to participate with us. Just to announce any community engagement here. So feel free to contact me. I'll add my contact details in the chat. So feel free to contact me if there's any upcoming events, competitions that you want us to participate in as Team Keen, please let us know. So again, thank you so much, all of you. And this is the end of the session. So thank you and hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.